You're bigger than me.
That's true.
They might want a bit taller.
I probably should.
How much taller?
All right, here we are. We are putting in our bees for the first of the year, so for our 2025 installation. So long story short, we lost all of our bees last year, and so now we are starting fresh with a bunch of new bees. So we're gonna go ahead and take everything off here, and these are boxes that have pretty much mostly drawn out comb. We have put in some undrawn comb frames, and that's just going to give them kind of something to do, and that way they don't feel the urge to swarm real fast. So essentially it'll buy us a little bit of time in between putting on new boxes, but most of the frames are drawn and they have honey and pollen already in here. We're going to supplement as well, so we'll be feeding 1-to-1 sugar water as well as pollen patties to give them kind of a nutrient boost as they get started here. It's still a little chilly. We're still definitely seeing temperatures in the 40s and even 30s, even in the highs for the day, with lows dipping down even still into the 20s periodically. So foraging isn't really something they're going to do often, just because there's not a lot out there for them at this point. Things are starting to bloom, but we're not quite there yet. So give it a couple weeks and then they'll start to be able to forage. But we're still going to give them that boost that they need just to get everything kind of ramped up. And then once the bloom is in full, then we'll go ahead and stop those supplements and let them do what they naturally do. But here we go. So we're going to show you kind of what we're doing here for our 2025 package installation. So these are package bees. So my good buddy Damon Phillips with Chapel Bees, Chapel Hives, he actually went down and got these from our good friend at Greg Burns and Nature's Image Farm. So if you're in especially the southern or central Ohio region, definitely highly recommend Nature's Image Farms, Greg Burns. They really run a great operation down there, and so you need, whether it be packaged bees like this, which he still has some. He's got a couple more runs coming up later in the month, and I think maybe even into next month. But whether you need packaged bees, coming up after that will be nukes, and of course any supplies that you might need. Highly recommend Greg down at Nature's Image Farm. So you can check him out. He's all over the place, social media and everything, so you can certainly find him very easily. Nature's Image Farm, and again, all over the social media platforms. He does a lot of speaking engagements as well, so you can find Greg all over the place. But so anyway, this is a package bee, and so again, there's two real types of bees as far as what you're going to get this time of year. It's going to be packages this early. Later in the season you can get nukes, which basically this is a package which is just bees, and then a queen in a queen cage, which is going to be something like this. So you can see our queen in there with the other bees. So those are going to be the nurse bees, but the larger queen with the or the larger bee with the blue dot, that's our queen. And so each of these hives is going to have one of those. We're actually going to do some splits right as we get started here. But so this is going to be just bees, a queen, and some sugar water. That's it. A nuke is a little bit different because a nuke actually has all of the things. It's a nucleus. It's a small hive, has everything you need in there to get started. So that's going to have the bees, the queen, the brood, so the baby bees, and it's going to have the honey. It's going to have the food. It's going to have the pollen. So it really is a functional hive, just on a small scale. So it kind of depends on where you're at in your beekeeping journey on which of those you might be looking at. And there's a time and place to do each of those, no matter what stage you're in. But for us, we want to get an early start, especially coming out of winter with no bees. It was a really tough year. If you want to do some research on that, there's a lot out there, but across the country, really staggering numbers of bee loss over this last year. If you're watching this, you probably already know that, so I'm not going to bore you with it. But if you haven't heard that, it's worth checking out, because a lot of commercial bee loss as well. So we're small scale, but even really large scale beekeeping operations lost significant numbers. They're at this point saying about 80% across the country, just more wide scale. So pretty significant. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to go ahead and pull all these off of here. So this is this is really a snapshot of Greg Burns and the team down at Nature Center's farm. They did such an awesome job. I should have taken a picture. I'll have to check with Damon. He might have taken a picture, but the way they secured all this on his truck, it was awesome. And they just go above and beyond on anything that they do. And so, thanks, Greg. I appreciate you making sure my bees didn't fly out of the back of Damon's truck. All right, so like I said, we're gonna do some splits off of this. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna kind of show you step by step. Right now, it's pretty cool, and so they're gonna be pretty calm. But essentially, I'm gonna shake out these bees. They're gonna kind of go crazy, start flying around a little bit. So I got my helper packs in here. So he's checking out one of our little bee friends here. But essentially, I'm gonna pop this top. I'm gonna go put my veil on because they're probably gonna be fine, but who knows? And so, for the sake of me videoing this, it's probably gonna be easier for me to do that. But basically, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this off, which is gonna expose the can of sugar water, and then which is essentially your nectar. And then we're gonna kind of just shake out these bees. And what I'm gonna do though is I'm only gonna shake out like half the bees because I want to split them. So right now you can see the bees are pretty calm. They're just kind of hanging out in there, happy to be alive. All right, actually, yeah, you can kind of see them there. This side's where they're all hanging out for some reason. So they're all hanging around that sugar water, and then the queen, which you can't see yet, which I'll show you in a second. Well, I showed you the one already. But so what I'm doing here, so I've got to get this sugar water out of here. I've got to get the queen out of here, and then we'll start to shake everything out. But I'm trying to split these in half, just to essentially increase our yield. Like I mentioned, all of these colonies, all the bee boxes that you see here, the hives, those are all pretty full. They're ready to go. So once they start to collect, they're going to be making honey. They're going to be making brood. They don't have to spend a lot of time filling out the frames. So that means they get a quicker start on things. There it comes. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of motivation. So now we've got the can starting to come out of here. Of course, shaking up the bees like that, they don't like that. So we're going to try not to do that too much. Alright, so pushing our queen cage back in there, trying to get it out of the way of this. Nice. Got a little bee on there. There we go. Alright. So again, basically we just have a can of sugar water. The bees are going to start to come out now. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set all of these up so that the sugar water still comes out, but this top box is kind of temporary. It's going to be for the sugar water when we start feeding, but it will also be right now because we're gonna be putting these bees in there, and I'll end up having to put the box in with the second one that we do. So right now I'm just gonna kind of shake these out. So Paxton, watch out for a second. Come over here by me. So we're gonna shake some of these out, okay? We're gonna check on our queen while we're in here too. So again, basically we've got that same queen cage that I just showed you, but the bees are kind of all over this one because, well, they've been hanging out with her for a little while. So they're happy with her for right now. All right, and I'm gonna try to get about half. So naturally, I'm splitting this out. I'm gonna drop half in here, and then I'm gonna put the rest in this box right over here. And that will allow them to go down into this bottom. But what I also have to do is I also have to get the queen down inside of here. So we're actually just gonna kind of set that one there for now. And again, there is honey in these frames. So they're gonna naturally be drawn to it. They're gonna wanna go down in there because they're gonna smell all of this yummy, delicious stuff that we got down in here. Yeah, she's hanging out with you. You can just kind of flick it off in there. So we're gonna go ahead and put this queen in here. We talked about installing queens before, but basically when you're putting a queen cage in, we're gonna pop off one side. We're gonna leave the main cork. We're gonna pull the one that has the fondant. So right here, we wanna pull that one off. What that does is it allows the bees to eat through the fondant, so it's kind of a temporary cork, so they can still get to the queen on their own. And then if we have to, we'll pull that cork out later. Yep. All right, so I always forget. It's really good to bring out like a little like a brad or a little nail. Really helps you to get that cork out of there. I always forget to bring that out. Fortunately, I had one over there. So we're taking that little cork out right now. There's fondant still there. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we put the fondant side up, or at least on a side, so that the bees can't block the queen in there. So like if a bee dies and gets kind of stuck down in there, we don't want her to get stuck in there. So now, basically, we're just gonna kind of spread this out, and right in the middle, where it's gonna be nice and warm, we're gonna put her, that queen cage, right down in the middle there. Okay? We're gonna slide that down. Maybe. Gotta separate these a little bit better. Okay. All right, so we got that one in there. So now we have that queen in. We're gonna go ahead and now put our top cover back on. We're gonna put our box back up here. And then basically we're just gonna put the rest of these bees that you can see right here, we're gonna go ahead and put them back. We're gonna put them right in here. We can shake some of those out too. Kind of encourage them a little bit. Shake them down in there. But, like I said, we can really just kind of leave this in here for right now.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
I just have 2 bee bites, but one flies away.
Nice. Actually got 2 bees on them.
Not just one, but this one, there's no one new.
So they're just kind of filtering down in there.
Somebody else want to come on me? There you go.
Alright, I'm actually just going to leave that right there for right now. And then basically we're going to do the same thing. So we got to get this other queen cage in here. So we've got one. Now we got to put this one in.
gonna put you.
The interesting thing is, with these bees, they've all come from like different spots. So the reality is, they're not like necessarily from one lineage, like one family. So they're all kind of new to each other, because these are all basically just bees that are shaken out of bigger bee hives, bigger bee colonies. So they will drift a little bit. There's ways you can help prevent that, but for the sake of this, as long as they're drifting to other areas of our other hives, I'm not too worried about it. And I never really have gotten too worried about it. So again, if you have different colonies, you're trying not to mix them, older colonies, things like that, maybe there would be a reason why you would want to prevent them from drifting into other colonies. Okay, again, here's our queen cage. We're gonna drop this one down in here. Make sure she's looking good in there. Yep, wonderful. Again, we're gonna pull that cork. And speaking of that cork, I'm not sure where I put that little nail. Keeps moving.
Yeah. This one might never leave me.
I think it's your buddy. Yeah.
Like, you know, I come in the house, I'll visit you again. I have to come out to the bee zone. Yeah, but not yet. You can say on me until we're done. You know, I don't care having you on me as long as you don't sing me.
That's right.
As long as you don't sing me. Won't be a friend if you sing me. If you don't, then I'll be a friend.
Just come home now.
Excited about this house is dancing when it sees this house.
Nice.
Dancing. Excited. That's why I get down to get to this house.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
it's hungry. The bee's hungry. You're a bee with your colony, maybe? I don't even know what one is your colony. What one is her
I
colony?
don't know. She can take a pic.
Yeah, you can take a pic. Oh.
Alright, so both of these now have queens. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and take these and shake them out. Get about half in there. Drop half in here. And then in about 3 days from when the queen gets out, and basically, because this is a mated queen, she will start laying eggs typically within about 3 days up to, could be up to a week. But that's really what we're looking for. So just because we're splitting off these bees doesn't mean that we're hurting them any. They will be just fine. Once that queen gets out, she will start to lay eggs, and then they'll be back at it, just as they were before. All right, so now we got those bees in there keeping the queen warm. That's great. We're gonna leave this like this, and we're gonna move on to the next set of hives. Okay, so we're just gonna keep that same process going here. So we're gonna go ahead and start taking these apart.
Hey, my buddy. I'm just checking how long the video is going.
You find another buddy?
Huh?
You find another buddy?
Yeah. Left.
Left already.
Huh?
Left you.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We're installing the bees. So again, pretty straightforward when it comes to a package of bees. Really, the key is the queen. It's got to be a good queen, and you know she's got to get in there, get started, and get laying as soon as possible. So again, these just came in. I just met Damon for these a couple hours ago. So really, it's as soon as you get the bees, get them installed right away. But yeah, it's really pretty straightforward in terms of, you know, the package. You're just essentially getting those bees into their new hive, their new house as soon as possible. So that's kind of where we're at. So the next steps from here, we will have to come back and check these in about 3 days. So those queens are in that queen cage. We got to make sure they get out. So about 3 days from now, we'll come back. We'll get those opened up, make sure the queen's released and out of the cage. If so, wonderful. That's all we're doing. We close it back up and we move on to the next one. So we'll do that for all 10. And then from there, basically, if the queen is not released from the cage, still in there, that second cork, we will then remove that at that point. Unless there's any signs of aggression or any concern that you might think that the colony is not going to accept that queen, in which case you would need to get another queen in there as soon as possible. Because again, basically we got to get that queen laying eggs as fast as possible, because the bees by themselves, they're not going to, you know, they'll just die slowly without a queen, without new eggs, and essentially new bees being made. So really important that happens. So again, 3 days, check for the queen, make sure she's out of the cage. If not, release her, and then that's it for that inspection. And then from there, we move on into about that 7 days from that point or so, and then we'll just kind of start our normal inspections moving forward through. And so with that 7 days, we're looking for eggs, making sure the queen got accepted, still in there, eggs are being laid, and that's going to be kind of the start of our successful colony from there. So at that point, they're going to run through and do what they do. And again, the blooms are going to start in here very soon, and they're going to start making honey. That's the beauty of it, and that's what we're in it for. So we're in it for the process here, and excited to see what these girls do for us this year. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed that. Again, we're super excited. We got a lot of things going on here on the farm. We'll bring you into not so much a video, not a how-to or anything like that, but just kind of some exciting news coming up on the chicken front. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, get out there, get you some bees, and have fun. Thanks. See you next time.